You walk into your home and glance around. Every appliance, every gadget, every piece of furniture represents money spent. Some of it adds value, some drains it slowly. The difference between these two is the line that separates people who build wealth and people who keep running in place. Understanding this difference isn't complicated. It's about recognizing assets versus liabilities and making deliberate decisions with your money. Most Americans focus on what feels like immediate satisfaction: buying the newest phone, a luxury gadget, or a car with all the bells and whistles. These purchases feel smart at the moment. They feel like achievement, like success. But the truth is, these are liabilities in disguise. They lose value, they require constant maintenance, and they don't generate income. When you buy them, you are essentially trading your time and future potential for temporary comfort. Contrast that with an asset. An asset is something that works for you. It generates cash flow, appreciates over time, or secures financial flexibility. Real estate, for example, can start small. A single rental property in a mid-sized American city can provide consistent monthly income while building equity. People often think real estate is out of reach, but with proper research, starter investments in small homes or multi-unit properties are achievable. Americans buying single-family homes in growing neighborhoods often experience value growth over 5 to 10 years that exceeds inflation. That same amount spent on a depreciating car never recovers. Investing in stocks is another way Americans build real wealth. Not just any stocks, but shares in companies with consistent revenue growth, dividend payments, and strong market positions. Many Americans underestimate the value of compound growth. Investing $500 a month in well-researched stock funds from age 25 can grow into hundreds of thousands of dollars by retirement without ever touching principal, just because those assets were generating returns consistently. Meanwhile, that same $500 spent monthly on subscription services, gadgets, or luxury purchases disappears without leaving anything behind. Even small changes in habits can accumulate massively over time. Americans often underestimate how recurring expenses impact their long-term financial health. For instance, buying a $50 gadget every month for convenience might seem harmless. But over a year, that adds up to $600, and over 10 years, $6,000 spent on items that don't generate income. Investing that same money into a dividend-yielding stock fund can generate ongoing returns and even start compounding faster than inflation. A key aspect many overlook is liquidity and flexibility. Owning assets allows you options. You can sell, leverage, or reinvest. Liability-driven purchases lock your resources and limit choices. For example, owning a small business in a local American town provides both cash flow and flexibility to pivot, expand, or sell. It is a different level of financial control compared to sinking money into vehicles that depreciate or luxury goods that require constant replacement. Let's talk about mindset. Americans who consistently grow wealth don't see money as something to spend immediately. They see it as a tool to multiply over time. They prioritize acquiring assets that either generate income or increase in value. A person who invests $1,000 into a rental property, for example, may also be learning property management skills, understanding taxes, and creating a network of business contacts. Those skills and connections become intangible assets themselves, opening doors to opportunities that others might miss entirely. Another overlooked asset class is education that directly translates into income growth. For instance, Americans investing in short-term skill development programs like coding boot camps, technical certifications, or specialized workshops often see returns within months. This isn't about traditional degrees or expensive courses with uncertain outcomes. It's targeted strategic knowledge that increases earning power. Compared to spending $2,000 on a new TV, that same investment in learning skills can generate thousands of dollars in additional income. Even physical assets matter when chosen wisely. Tools that enhance productivity, high-quality equipment for work or home business, for instance, can function as assets if they generate measurable returns. Buying a professional-grade camera for content creation can result in paid projects, online sales, or brand partnerships. A flashy gadget with no income potential is just a liability. Understanding this balance requires reflection. Americans who struggle financially often fail to separate emotional satisfaction from strategic value. A new car feels exciting, but a car is a depreciating asset at best. A stock fund or rental property might not provide the same immediate thrill, but it compounds quietly in the background, providing freedom, choice, and stability years down the line. You might be wondering where to start if you have limited funds. Start with small, attainable investments. A micro-investing app allows Americans to buy fractional shares of stocks with as little as $5. Real estate crowdfunding platforms let you invest in property development projects with minimal capital. Even starting a side business from home, selling services online or offering consulting, can turn into a steady stream of income. These small, deliberate steps build a foundation for financial independence. The difference between people who move forward and those who stay stuck is consistent action toward acquiring assets that work for them. Every dollar you allocate to a liability reduces your future options. Every dollar allocated to an asset multiplies your potential. The choice is tangible and measurable. Building wealth in the United States is rarely about quick wins. It's about designing a system that consistently works for you, turning your resources into tools that create more resources. Once you understand assets and liabilities, the next step is to make strategic choices that ensure every dollar spent strengthens your financial foundation. One of the most overlooked opportunities lies in small-scale real estate investments. Many Americans assume property ownership is reserved for the wealthy, but that isn't true. Even a modest duplex in a growing neighborhood can generate monthly income while appreciating over time. Americans who study market trends, local rental demand, and property maintenance costs often find that the returns on a small property far exceed the cost of managing it. These investments not only create passive income, but also develop practical skills in negotiation, property management, and financial planning. Equity in a business can be another powerful asset. Individuals who start side businesses in the U.S., whether online stores, local service companies, or consulting services, often discover that these ventures generate more than just money. They provide experience in managing operations, understanding customer behavior, and building networks. Over time, a small side business can evolve into a full-time enterprise that delivers consistent income and valuable professional credibility. Every step toward creating a business-based asset multiplies your options for growth. Stocks remain one of the most accessible and versatile assets for Americans, but the key is selecting stocks with predictable performance patterns and reinvesting gains rather than spending them. Dividend-paying companies allow your investment to generate additional capital continuously. Americans who follow disciplined monthly contributions into these stocks often notice a gradual accumulation of wealth that outpaces most traditional savings accounts. The effect is subtle but powerful. Compounding returns expand your financial capacity over years, without requiring you to constantly increase your initial investment. Another area that is frequently underestimated is strategic learning. Skills that directly improve income potential are assets in themselves. Short-term technical certifications, online courses, or industry-specific training can provide measurable increases in earnings. For example, a professional completing a digital marketing course can secure higher-paying freelance clients or manage marketing for small businesses. The cost of such training pales in comparison to the income generated from applying these skills. Americans who treat skill acquisition as an asset-building activity see long-term returns that far surpass casual spending on luxury items. Physical assets, when carefully chosen, add another layer of financial strength. Tools, equipment, and technology that enhance productivity are not just expenses. They are investments in capability. A freelance writer investing in a high-quality laptop and ergonomic workspace can complete projects faster and take on more clients. These are practical examples of turning spending into long-term financial advantage rather than temporary enjoyment. Consistency is essential. Americans often get caught in cycles of reactive spending, purchasing items for immediate satisfaction. Each impulsive purchase drains potential wealth that could have been redirected toward assets. Even moderate, regular investments compound significantly over time. A $200 monthly allocation to a diversified portfolio might seem small, but over a decade, it accumulates into a substantial sum, especially when combined with dividends and growth. Americans who understand the exponential effect of consistent contributions experience financial stability and increased options for reinvestment. Financial literacy itself is an asset. Knowing where to place your money, how to analyze opportunities, and which strategies align with your long-term goals provides control over outcomes. Americans who actively track cash flow, compare asset options, and understand taxation effects on investments rarely find themselves caught in financial traps. Tracking and measuring impact is a continuous process, but it builds clarity and confidence that allows more precise decisions. It's also important to recognize the role of time in wealth building. Assets that compound or appreciate require patience. A rental property may not provide immediate profits in the first month, but over years, steady rental income and property appreciation can surpass what short-term consumption ever offers. Stocks that consistently pay dividends increase both principal and cash flow, building stability while preserving flexibility. Americans who align their spending with this long-term perspective find themselves gradually free from financial pressure. Risk management is another aspect often overlooked. Choosing assets wisely reduces exposure to unexpected financial setbacks. Diversifying between property, stocks, skill-based investments, and tools ensures that your wealth-building system remains resilient. Americans who rely solely on a single type of asset face increased vulnerability if market trends shift. Let's explore a practical approach to transitioning from liabilities to assets. Begin by identifying recurring expenses that do not generate value. That expensive gadget, frequent dining out, or upgraded electronics may seem minor individually but collectively consume substantial financial bandwidth. Redirecting even a portion of these expenditures toward investments transforms spending patterns. For instance, instead of buying a $1,500 luxury item, consider contributing that amount to a stock portfolio or setting up a micro-business initiative. The impact is not immediate in visible enjoyment, but the cumulative benefit over months and years is significant. Americans who adopt this approach often notice a shift in lifestyle perception. Possessions that previously defined status become secondary to financial security and flexibility. The focus changes from acquiring items that depreciate to acquiring resources that grow. Each dollar spent strategically reinforces independence and multiplies future choices. The practical effect is not abstract. It directly affects lifestyle, career options, and financial resilience. Even seemingly small assets can have a profound effect. For example, purchasing professional software for a creative endeavor or starting a niche e-commerce store may appear minor initially. Yet these small steps can generate income streams, increase skill sets, and create networking opportunities. Over time, multiple small assets combine to form a diversified and robust financial base. Americans leveraging these minor but strategic investments often find themselves with opportunities that others might overlook entirely. Networking, while often considered intangible, functions as an asset in practical terms. Connections made through professional engagements, mentorship, or business collaborations provide access to insights, deals, and partnerships. An individual in a growing American city who invests time in building relationships in their industry gains informational advantages that translate into financial opportunities. Strategic networking expands the potential of other assets by providing avenues for growth, collaboration, and monetization. Finally, financial reflection reinforces asset-focused decisions. Regularly reviewing what you own, what generates value, and what drains resources creates a feedback loop. Americans who periodically analyze their portfolio of assets versus liabilities make adjustments that compound benefits over time. This reflection also reinforces habits that keep you aligned with long-term goals, ensuring that assets continue to work for you and not against you. The path to wealth is not about short-term excitement or visible displays of consumption. It's about creating a framework where your money, skills, and resources consistently enhance one another. Each asset acquired adds a layer of security and potential. Each liability avoided preserves freedom and options. Every step taken with intention compounds quietly, setting the stage for sustained financial strength. Take a moment to consider the purchases you make, the investments you overlook, and the choices you postpone. Every dollar has potential. Where it flows determines whether it builds or erodes your financial future. In America, the difference between maintaining status and creating freedom is measured not by income alone, but by how effectively your resources generate ongoing value. Reflect on your own situation. What is working for you today? Which assets are quietly building your future, and which liabilities are quietly draining it? Strategic decisions made now define financial freedom in the years ahead. Wealth is created not by chance, but by deliberate action, careful planning, and consistent investment in assets that multiply your potential and preserve your choices. Every dollar you direct toward growth is a step toward freedom, and every decision you make today shapes the possibilities of tomorrow.